Thank you, sir. Good morning. I'll be presenting on novel approach to the management of severe facial disfigurement in neurofibromatosis type 1. I have nil financial disclosure. Orbitopalpebral neurofibromatosis is the most common form of benign peripheral nerve tumor. The palpebral will be deformed by peripheral systemic type neurofibromatosis type 1, or it can be a segmental orbitotemporal neurofibromatosis. This causes a shaped deformity of the upper lid ptosis and has a bag of worm appearance on palpation due to multiple neurofibromatous units with distinct peripheral sheath. Extensive upper lid neurofibromata creates a functional and aesthetic problem which is inadequately addressed in the literature. The levator action is also compromised, thus rehabilitation of the function along with aesthetic debulking is required. Surgical excision is usually complicated by excessive bleeding and poor post-op osmosis. Hence, repeated debulking is usually required. Aim of the study was to report a case series of 7 patients with orbitopalpebral neurofibromatosis. All patients presented with bulky upper lid causing mechanical ptosis with good to poor levator action and lateral canthal dystopia. Each patient was managed with customized surgical approach depending upon their clinical manifestation. All patients underwent a detailed systemic and ophthalmic evaluation like vision refraction, anterior posterior segment examination like including squint, glaucoma, retina, ptosis, proptosis evaluation along with imaging. All patients were managed with a planned surgical approach. They underwent full thickness transverse resection of the upper lid neurofibroma along with canthopexy and ptosis correction depending upon the levator action. All patients were explained about the risk, benefit of the procedure and the need for additional surgical procedures if deemed necessary, and consent was taken. Case 1 was a 13-year-old female with drooping of the left upper lid since birth, gradually increasing in severity, and her best corrected vision was 6/6 in both eyes. She had a S-shaped ptosis with boggy soft swelling in the left upper lid with no levator function and temporal bony defect. The MRI brain showed a prominent tortuous venous channels in the left temple with intraorbital extension. She underwent lid reconstruction in a stage procedure. We did a left upper lid horizontal blepharotomy with canthal attachment of the upper and lower tarsal plates to the periosteum of the lateral orbital rim and levator reattachment. Second stage was done 1 month later with a frontalis sling and a lateral augmentation canthoplasty. Follow-up at 3 months and 4 years showed that she had a good cosmetic appearance, which was improved markedly and remained stable. And the second case was a 11-year-old male with a S-shaped ptosis and a boggy swelling of the left upper lid with a esotropia and hypotropia along with a raised IOP. The vision in the left eye was 1/60 and the levator function was 9 mm. CT brain showed a soft swelling in the left preseptal region, and he underwent a left full thickness transverse palpebral resection with a lateral canthopexy of the lower lid along with levator reinsertion of the tarsus. And the follow-up after 1 month showed that the results were very stable. And the third case was a 36-year-old man with neurofibromatosis type 1 with a left pulsatile proptosis, and vision in that eye was 6/18. Hertel showed 2 mm difference, 16 and 18. Levator action was 13. MRI brain showed left eye proptosis with mild herniation of the brain parenchyma through a defect in the lateral wall of the orbit. He also underwent radical palpebral resection like the previous 2 patients along with a levator reattachment. Follow-up, he maintained a good result with satisfactory cosmesis at 1 and 2 years of follow-up. And case 4 was a 24-year-old male with a swelling of the right upper lid with a poor marginal apposition for the past 2 years. Vision was 6/12, levator action was 13, and MRI brain showed a infiltrating soft tissue thickening along the lateral aspect of the right and upper lids and lateral canthus, and there was no postseptal extension. He underwent the same radical palpebral remodeling along with levator reattachment and canthoplasty. Follow-up at 1 year showed that patient had a good lid contour from this procedure. And case 5 was a 12-year-old female with a left severe ptosis and a lateral canthal displacement. The lid was overhanging and overlapping the lower lid with obliteration of the palpebral aperture. Vision was 6/18, levator action was only 5. She underwent the first stage full thickness transverse oblique resection along with the lateral canthal attachment, and frontalis surgery was done 1 month later. But 5 years follow-up, she developed recurrent ptosis and repeat sling was done. 3 years later, there was a disease progression and she underwent repeat full thickness lid resection of the diseased upper lid and followed by frontalis sling at the same sitting. She maintained an unimpeded visual access and acceptable cosmesis at 6 months post-surgery. So case 6 was a female child who presented to us at first 1.5 years, where the left upper lid was heavily involved with a plexiform, neurofibroma, hypoglobus and inophthalmos and facial asymmetry. And vision in that eye was 6/36, best corrected. MRI showed, brain showed a soft tissue swelling with a bony and lateral skull involvement. She underwent 3 surgeries of upper lid debulking at the age of 2 years, from the age of 2 years. At 11 years, she again presented with severe mechanical ptosis and oculopalpable diastasis, obscuring the visual axis. So she underwent a stage procedure with transverse blepharotomy and after 3 months, a frontalis ring procedure with a lateral canthal tightening. And follow-up, she showed maintained an acceptable cosmesis and clear visual access at 3 months, 6 months and 1 year follow-up. Seventh case was a 29-year-old male who had a left severe upper lid neurofibromatosis, which was operated twice in childhood. Vision was 6/18, and it was a distorted floppy upper lid with severe scarring, hypoplastic tarsus, and loss of lid globe apposition, no levator action. He underwent a similar procedure like what the other previous patients had undergone. But 3 months follow-up, he had a residual upper lid mass and underwent a full thickness transverse resection with again a pentagon wedge resection of the lateral portion of the 5 millimeter of the upper lid along with frontalis sling. He maintained a fairly satisfactory elevation of the upper lid at 6 months follow-up. So all 7 patients had different clinical manifestations, and the surgical approach depended on the extent of soft tissue, bony involvement, and visual potential. We reported a surgical technique which gave good functional and aesthetic benefit in spite of progressive and debilitating nature of the disease. Reconstructive eyelid surgery in a staged manner was planned with contralateral eyelid serving as a model. Patient underwent full thickness transverse palpable resection of the upper lid with lateral canthal attachment of both the tarsal plates to the periosteum. Ptosis correction was done depending on either LPS attachment or frontalis sling depending on the LPS function. Lee et al. Recommended partial excision.
Time is up.
And pasteurization could not suffice as there were chances of prolapse, and 2-stage procedure was better because that caused volume reduction as it preserved eyelid margin and post-op corneal this thing. And
your time is up, Dr. Vijay.
Okay.
Just let her finish.
Okay. Surgical technique. Only 2 more slides. Surgical techniques, the contralateral upper lid was taken as a model. The contralateral eyelids width of the normal eyelid was measured, and supratarsal crease was marked. Distance between the supratarsal crease and normal eyelid was marked, and this formed the lower margin of interday excision. 3 dots were placed on the normal eyelid, medial, mid, and lateral, and the distance between these 2 areas was excised as a full thickness wedge. And the excised upper lid was reconstructed along with the lateral canthal attachment to the tarsal of the tarsal plate to the periosteum with lateral canthopexy. So plexiform infiltrator is very vascular and bleeds copiously during surgery. A tailored radical palpable resection can provide both functional and aesthetic benefit even in a patient, which improved patient social interaction and confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. Nice presentation. Let me remind here all the presenters, there are marks for the time also.
Yes, that
so
will deduct.
Yeah, if you exceed the time, your marks would be deducted. So all subsequent presenter has to keep this thing in mind. So that's one aspect. Secondly, Dr. Vijay, very nice presentation. My one question is, do you have anything to add upon the standard line of treatment, or you are just presenting it as a series of cases? Because I think this is the standard treatment which is being offered. So anything new, or you just want to present the standard line of treatment?
So why I presented this, many times the patients are undergoing debulking, and it's mostly only a partial debulking done. Most of them are not doing the surgical repair because of the fear that the surgical correction will not be adequate or appropriate. So if we follow this technique, which was described by Muge et al. And Kobe, the cosmetic result as well as the functional outcome is quite satisfactory.
Okay. And your follow-up seems to be quite long in few of the cases. So what is the average follow-up in your cases?
Most of the patients have come, average is like 2 years, sir.
Okay,
Wonderful.
good. And the other
So
thing
these
is,
patients, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
One question. Can you hear me, Vijay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
These patients are notorious for recurrence. So what about recurrence? And some patients may develop malignancy, may not be early but late. So these two risks, one is recurrence and other is the malignancy. So what
Yes,
about those things in your patients?
Sir, when we counsel the patients, we told them that they may require a repeat surgery. They can have lifelong series of surgeries, and malignancy is one of the risk factors along with recurrence. This was counseled when before the surgery for all the patients, so they have to come for follow-up lifelong.
So are they mentally ready if they develop malignancy, maybe few cases, more maybe rare, but will they not go to the court against you? I mean, I have a real life question because you are doing a good surgery. I appreciate your surgery and really good surgery.
Sir,
But what about if some patients develop malignancy and you will be called to the court?
So we have actually got the consent form signed, and these patients mostly they are very much concerned about the lid deformity. So and also most of the patients were developing amblyopia. Out of 4 patients were amblyopic. So
Dr. Vijay, the time is up. I guess we need to proceed for the next speaker. Thank you so much.
That's why the surgery was done.
Anyway, just last question: where you perform these surgeries? Which institute?
Sir, Arvind Eye Hospital, sir, Coimbatore.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, President.